In this video, we're going to look at data validation. The reason I included it in this training course is because it's a query I get a lot. Data validation is something you can use when you want in a cell to have a drop down to select a value rather than typing a value. In this case here, I've got a name. If I don't want people to actually type a name, like say Joe, I rather want them to select it from a drop down, maybe for spelling or to make sure they only use one of these options. What you can use is a data validation drop down. So what you do is select the cell where you want the drop down to be, click on the data ribbon, and then on the right hand side you'll see data validation on the data tools, and then you click on validation. Currently you'll see it will say allow any value. If you select list from this, and in your source you can select the actual names and you click OK, and now you'll see when you're in that cell there's a drop down and you can pick one of those names and it will complete that value for you. Just a hint, sometimes it's not easy to see in Excel where there would be a drop down. What I do is I just go to the home tab, and in this border I just put a border around that cell for myself to mark it as a cell that's got a drop down. So this is a good place where you can also use a name. So if you remember in our video on named ranges, what I could do is call this names, select all the data, and then in the formula tab I can click create from selection. So the top row's got the name. So if you don't know how this works, just look at the video on named ranges. I click OK, and now if I delete what I had in here before, if I now click on data validation, say select list, but this time I press F3 when I'm in source and named ranges will come up. I select my names, click OK and pick OK. The advantage of using a named range is if I were to put a new name here, and so I put two new names there, what you can do is click on the formulas, name manager, and all I have to do is increase that name range by 2 characters, click OK and close, and now wherever I have that drop down you'll automatically see the 2 new names added to the list. If you had loads of them, so if I can show you one more example, and a data validation cell can be copied. So if I copy this to a few other places, so in each of these you can see it goes down to Patrick. If I now add one more name, go to name manager, increase this by one more cell, click close. Now every one of these drop downs will have Susan as an option as well. So that's the reason you would use named ranges in data validation, to save you having to change all of it. A named range, if you type something that shouldn't, normally you would select data, let's say I select Monica, no problem. If I type in here something that's not in the list and I click outside or press enter, I will get this value. But if I click retry, it will go back there. But if I click cancel, it will actually just leave that cell. What you can also do is, let me just press escape. If you have a cell and you click on data validation, you can hear in the input message, when somebody hovers over your cell, you can say a title and say select a name, and if you click OK now if you hover over a cell, you'll see there it gives you some kind of message of what to do, and then if you select a name and go on to another cell, that heading will disappear. Also what you can do, if I click on data validation again, is if you click on error alert, what do you want to do when something goes wrong? So currently you saw the default message, but I can say, rather than giving a stop, just give information and say a message like this, use the list. So I click on OK. So now if I type something that's not in the list, press enter, you'll see this. Now before, remember, there was a retry. Now if I click OK, careful, if it's a warning or a information only, it won't force the user to use what's in the list. So it accepted, it warned you that this was the wrong information to use, but it allowed it anyway. If you click on data validations drop down, this circle invalid data, if you click on that, will highlight any cells where you've used data validation with invalid data. So it will highlight it in red, and if I go now there, correct it, say to Jane, click on data validation, and either clear the circles, but if you do invalid data again, circle invalid data, it will disappear. So data validation is a very convenient way to make sure the information in a cell is correct. I'm just going to add one more cell here that I want to use data validation, and this is just as a highlight to show you what else you can do. If you click on data validation, what we have done up to now is use list, but you can use whole number, for instance, and you can say a number must be between two values. You can use, say, text length, and say the text length must be at most, say, 50 characters. So something like this. Let's just show you. I'll go back to a whole number, and I said it must be a number between 1 and 50. So now if I'm here, if I press in 1, it's fine. If I press 51, I'll get that error again. So you can, other than using a drop down, you can also, in this data validation, use any one of these other options in here. It is better, if you remember, this is the cell we used when we put our custom error on. We don't see it here. It's always better to make one drop down the way you want it, and then once that's complete, you can copy this over. Just be careful, if there used to be a value, it will come along, but you can simply delete that value and select. So this is what I would do. I would have a blank cell exactly the way I want it and then copy it, but this obviously doesn't have to be the same. You can select whichever name. Most of the times I don't use custom headings or custom headers because the default is quite sufficient for what you want to do. And that is how you use data validation in Excel. Hi, this is Anton from the Data Developer channel. If you've liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up below and subscribing to the channel. And thank you for watching.